It's one of the least known stories of the 20th century, how President Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II worked together to bring down communism and end the Cold War. It's a story now told in a new documentary film called The Divine Plan. In the spring of 1981, assassins shot both President Reagan and Pope John Paul II, just 6 weeks apart. Both men nearly died.
Both of them lost half their blood. One 60% estimate, one 60%, one 50%, and some of the facts come from the New York Times.
They both said to one another, this Protestant president and obviously Catholic Pope, they said to one another that they believed that God had spared their lives because they should have bled to death. They both should have died.
While the Pope and President had admired one another from afar, the assassination attempts drew them together. When meeting for the first time at the Vatican the following year, they confided in each other their belief God had spared their lives for a reason. That reason? To defeat communism. In private, Reagan put a name on it, the Divine Plan, or the DP.
And DP was a code word he always used with his own cabinet, Casey and other. When they'd say DP, it was a code word because they felt like certain things were always occurring in some kind of higher design. So when he confessed to John Paul II that he felt like, not that he didn't have a faith, but that his faith mission was galvanized by that assassination, John Paul II agreed with him, and they were united from that point forward.
On the surface, the two men appeared to have little in common.
John Paul II, because he only knew of Reagan through Western media, actually was suspect about him being a bit of a warmonger, because if you listen to Western media at the time, so he wanted to meet, on top of this, he wanted to meet Reagan face to face to see if he was a man of peace. But after that meeting, he told his peers that Reagan was a man of peace. We could partner with him.
Robert Orlando, who wrote and directed The Divine Plan, says they quickly discovered strong agreement on the bedrock principles of faith, freedom, and human dignity.
They also both suffered a lot in their lives. By the time he was 21, he describes himself as very much alone, and all the people he had loved had died already.
Although they visited in person only 5 times, President Reagan and Pope John Paul began a rich correspondence, and through it, developed an extraordinary bond. From the Polish Solidarity movement in the Pope's homeland to the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Divine Plan shows how the President and the Pope persevered together in prayer and diplomacy until Soviet communism ultimately unraveled. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.